Welcome to a special feature on Leave a Legacy, a program designed to help individuals in Washtenaw County and southeastern Michigan understand the impact their charitable giving can make on the organizations they love and want to support. Statistics tell us that in Michigan, a majority of us already give to charities on a regular basis. In a few minutes, we'll ask our experts to share some ways of providing for those charities dear to us, even beyond our lifetime. But first, let me begin by noting that throughout the program, as is the standard for Leave a Legacy, we're not advocating any particular charity. We are simply championing charitable planning in general, and specifically planned giving. My name is Steve Moore. I'm the Director of Philanthropy at the Mike Ilitch School of Business at Wayne State University. And let me start by introducing our distinguished guests this evening. First, Denise Fleckenstein, the Director of Donor Relations at United Way for Southeastern Michigan. Denise, give us a little bit about your background.
Thanks, Steve. Well, I've been serving in a fundraising capacity for about 16 years now in nonprofit work. And it's very near and dear to my heart because I want to help people make a gift that will make an impact in the community that they live in. And so that's what I do day in and day out. I work with individuals who want to make a difference in the world that they live in.
Great. And let me also introduce Christopher Kelly, who is a planned giving specialist with PNC Bank. Chris, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been involved in charitable gift planning for about 28 years, and like Denise, it's a very enriching experience because we are able to work with individuals who are very interested in benefiting particular organizations and issues and having an impact on the communities, the country, and the world. So it's very much a part of my being, and I love the fact that we can all be involved in leaving a legacy.
Perfect. Let me remind our viewers that even though we all have day jobs, we serve as volunteers for Leave a Legacy, and all of us happen to be part of the Speakers Bureau. And so we're pleased to have this opportunity to share with you on this program. Before we talked about planned giving, though, or giving beyond our lifetimes, let's talk a little bit about charity in general and why that is important. Denise, let me start with you. Do charitable donations really make that much of a difference?
Steve, they make a huge difference in our communities nationwide and in the world. I don't think we have to look much beyond what we see in the news every day and how people are suffering, and in our own communities, how children need food, people need homes, and no matter what your favorite cause is, when you make a gift to charity, it does impact individuals. It does impact lives. Right. And it's very important.
Very important. Absolutely. So Chris, kind of talking a little bit about the impact that Denise mentioned, how many people in Michigan give to charity on an annual basis?
Michigan's a very generous state. Statistically, in our study that the Planned Giving Roundtable did with Michigan State University, showed that 82 to 85% of Michigan residents give to nonprofit organizations and issues that are very important to them. So this is a part of the Michigan culture.
Excellent. So that's pretty good representation then.
Absolutely.
So why do you think that number is so high? What motivates people to give?
Well, as Denise said, contributing to organizations that we believe in allows us to not only support that organization, but also to send a message to family members, friends, that the issue is important. It's not easy to obtain a 501c3 status. So when an organization is recognized with that designation, the support to keep that mission going is important. And we recognize it, we support it.
It's great. So Denise, this might sound like a silly question, but I think it'll be a broader answer than our viewers maybe think of at first. And how do people give to charities during their lifetime?
Well, the easiest way is with a check from your checkbook. You know, that's the easiest way, and most people do that. But other individuals can make a gift using stock, and that's a very popular way to do that because particularly if you've made money on your stock, you have capital gains, and when you give to charity, you pretty much reduce those capital gains on that income you've made. You know, the other ways too people can give, sometimes people have art they would like to give to museums. Sometimes people have rare books. Sometimes people can give their car to charity, and the charity sells the car and they take those proceeds and put it to work for their particular purpose in the community.
Sure, that's great. All of those are easy to do, and I'm sure our viewers are doing many of those already. Chris, what are some of the other giving techniques that our viewers might want to know about?
Well, Denise covered some of the things that we can do while we are alive and in prime income generating years, but we forget that we could make a contribution through our estate plan. Testamentary gifts or gifts under the will are a very popular way to get started with leaving a legacy. Again, it's an opportunity to generate tax deductions that might be needed in transferring our wealth to loved ones. Plan giving vehicles too add a lot of value in having that impact that the donor is looking to have on the organization and their charitable mission. And that's part of our organization's credo, to teach people what's available, what the personal benefits are, what the philanthropic benefits are, and how they really can have an impact on their own community.
Sure. I don't want to wander too far from the human perspective of giving. And so I'd like to ask both of you, and we'll start with Chris, have you seen personally where gifts to charities really can have an impact on the community? And if so, how did that work? Maybe an example of something that you've seen work very successfully for a local organization.
Well, a little outside of our locale, but I was working with a university that was in the midst of a capital campaign. And there was a couple that very much wanted to have an impact on that capital campaign. Now, writing the check or even donating stock from their personal portfolio wasn't exactly comfortable for them at that moment. They needed to know how to do it in a more effective manner. Gift planning came to the rescue. They actually set up a charitable gift annuity contract that allowed them to avoid the capital gain that Denise was talking about, and not only leave a legacy to the university, but the new disposable income off of the gift annuity enabled them to have a bigger impact on the capital campaign than they originally thought they could.
Awesome. So I think our viewers would like to know that the word philanthropist does not necessarily mean that someone is wealthy. It actually refers to someone that loves people. And so when we think about the concept of philanthropy, that's often how people represent that love for a particular organization, maybe that's impacted them or their family member. What about you, Denise? Are there situations where you've seen philanthropy really have a meaningful impact on a local organization?
I have. A few years ago, I worked with a donor who I discovered had a passion for early childhood education. They felt that that was the #1 thing to help children get ready to go to school so that they would be successful. So what they decided to do was actually make a gift that supported that work. And so they actually started an endowment with that gift. And so it lives on. Their legacy lives on now because every year a certain amount of the endowment will go to pay for services to help children in early childhood education programs. And so there you go. They've made that lovely gift that's going to last a long time in
Sure.
community.
So that's a great example. It's a gift now, but it will carry on in perpetuity. So
Yes.
very meaningful. So Chris, we talked a little bit about the fact that people, over 80% of Michigan residents give to charity on an annual basis. So what happens on the flip side? That 82%, do the same number of people include a charity in their estate plan?
Well, sadly, the number drops dramatically. Again, our study showed that only about 9% of the Michigan residents use their estate planning or leave a legacy of some type, which is why we instituted the program that we did. If organizations are this meaningful to someone during their lifetime, it's even more important that we take a step to teach the next generations not just the value of a dollar, but why philanthropy and practicing gift planning is so important. It takes care of these organizations for us while sending that mission to the future.
It's great. I'm glad you mentioned that, because you talked a little about, teaching the future generations a little bit about the importance of giving. So I want to come back to that in a minute, but Denise, why such a dramatic drop-off? Why are not more Michigan residents including their favorite charity or organization in their estate plan?
One of the biggest reasons is nobody ever asked them to do it. And that's something that I think all organizations need to really think about, is don't be shy. You have a person who's been giving to your organization and your cause for many, many years. Why not ask them if they'd like to continue that help after they're gone? And then we can have ways to help them do that. That's one of the biggest reasons.
Sure. Do they have to have a will to do that?
The will is a good place to start, but again, sadly, the legal community would support the fact that there are still a lot of people who don't have a simple will. So again, the entire message behind Leave a Legacy is for people to take a step back and look at where they're at today, look at what they've accomplished, and maybe find ways to have that impact. It's not about people passing on. It's about people being able to make a statement about who they were, what they believed in, and what they accomplished. So if anything, it's a celebration of the donor's life.
Sure. That might be important for people that consider themselves wealthy, but what about people that have maybe more modest means? Is a will important for them?
It definitely is. We don't really believe it, but through our lifetime, we've accumulated assets, and those assets are worth something. And so when you're considering, you've got children who you're going to leave the assets to, you can actually do both. You can actually leave some assets to your children, and if you would like to leave some to charity, you can do that too, and there's ways to do that.
To Denise's point, Steve, many people think that their estates stop growing when they retire, when in fact they do continue to grow. Maybe not at as rapid a rate, but they still grow. And that's why the estate planning and even a simple will is so important. And we need to think about that.
Sure. Well, this is great. We've talked about the fact that Michigan residents, and certainly here in Washtenaw County, the Ann Arbor area, people are very philanthropic. They like to support local organizations. We've talked about some of the general ways they can do that, but I'd like to focus in a little bit more now on specifically gifts that we can arrange that will maybe transfer after death, and some of the techniques that our viewers might want to know about as far as those types of gifts. Chris, why don't you start us off for an average person, that what might they do to start?
Well, we started with the simple will. And that's always the place that people need to learn about gift planning if they want to leave a legacy. From there, you can move into things like a charitable remainder trust, something that we can establish that will leave a legacy, but can also provide a little extra disposable income during our lifetime and help us provide for our loved ones as well as our loved organizations. Some people feel that maybe the trust is too large of a situation, and that's where the charitable gift annuity can come in. Working with that charity that you are so enthralled with, they may have a charitable gift annuity program.
Sure.
And the documents provided for free. It can take in cash or appreciated asset and provide deductions as well as disposable income. Other vehicles, to Denise's point, where people like to have an even larger impact would be donor funds or even private foundations. Mm-hmm. The fact is, we don't all have to be extremely wealthy to have an impact.
I think one of the easiest ways for someone to make a gift is to utilize their IRA or their 401k plan. It's very simple. You really just need to get the form, the beneficiary form, and decide what percentage of it you would like to leave to charity. And it can be more than one charity. And so when you fill that beneficiary form out, that is your document that makes that decision.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We know that now that Americans are accumulating the majority of their wealth in retirement plans. Mm-hmm. And those are things that are very easy. As you mentioned, they can contact their provider and get the forms to make that beneficiary designation very easily. Do your organizations provide the language for them to include in those documents?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we
Absolutely. Do. You know, the other thing to Denise's point is life insurance. We
Mm-hmm.
sometimes forget about that. You can use the beneficiary designation in the policy. You can set up a life insurance policy that is specifically dedicated to the organization or organizations that you want to benefit. There's a lot of easy ways of doing it. It's all about the planning.
Sure. Well, Denise, you shared a great story about one of these techniques a little bit earlier, and thank you for doing that. Chris, from your perspective, if you think about somebody that's used one of these techniques that you've seen it work very effectively, what are you a big fan of?
Oh, that's hard for me because I love them all. Mm-hmm. I think what we have to take into consideration is it's planning and it's customized. Mm-hmm. So any donor can sit down with their attorney, their CPA, their financial advisor or the private banker, along with the nonprofit that they believe in, and learn about what they can accomplish and what vehicles make the most sense. I think what we always agree on is first decide what is it that you want to see happen for these organizations. And then you can work backwards, Steve, and it's almost like a roadmap appears. You can pick the right vehicle or combination of vehicles, and the next thing you know, you're having a bigger impact than you ever thought you could.
Great. That's so important. So, for our viewers' sake, is there a particular time of life that we need to start thinking about these things? And if so, what's your recommendation, Denise?
So I'll tell you the personal story. My husband and I were going to go on vacation out of the country, and we looked at each other and went, we have a will, but have we updated it lately? And so I think we better investigate that. And so we did, and that's something that happens in life. Mm-hmm. When individuals decide to have a family, or when they're getting close to retirement, when these are life changes. And so these kinds of life changes will kind of give you a clue to, maybe I ought to do something here. Or you look at your assets one day and you go, wow, I didn't realize we had accumulated all these assets. We better think about how we would like those distributed after we're gone. And a lot of people joke about this, but it's really true. Do you really want to give your money to the government, or do you want to give it to your heirs and charity? Mm-hmm. And I think most people would say, I want to give my accumulated wealth or whatever I have left to my children, my grandchildren, or to my charities of choice.
Sure. So that's a good point. What happens if somebody passes away without a will, Chris? Is there something that would happen automatically, or is it just up for grabs?
Well, when someone dies intestate, then actually the state of Michigan has to come in and make those decisions for the deceased. So they're going to decide who would benefit from it. And many times they don't take into consideration that someone may have been charitably motivated. So to Denise's point again, it is extremely important at any age to take a step back, and it might just surprise you how much you've already accumulated and what kind of an impact you can have.
Sure. Yeah, with the market being up, that's a timely comment. I think lots of people are looking at their stock and bond portfolio and thinking, you know, wow, it's back to where it was before the drop. So I think it's important that. How often do you recommend that people review this?
Well, it's not a bad idea to dust it off annually. Things change over a year. If nothing else, it'll affirm that you're in good shape and what you would like to see happen will take place.
And it makes sense if you've filled out a beneficiary form to review a beneficiary form for your 401k plan or your IRA, because things could change as well in a year about that. And you know, maybe you want to add a charity to that.
Sure. That's great. Denise, you mentioned something a minute ago. I kind of want to go back and pick this up. You're talking about a personal situation. What if people were concerned about their family and, you know, commonly, you know, do I have enough and things like that? Is there a good way to balance the concerns for taking care of your family and still providing for those charitable organizations that have had such a great impact on our lives?
Well, I think you have to sit down and plan, number one, and decide how much you would like to give to your children or grandchildren. It all has to go back to planning. And you can balance by using certain kinds of things like a gift annuity. You can do a simple bequest in your will that gives a percentage of the estate. And you've planned it all out so you know what your children and grandchildren are going to be getting as well.
Sure.
And always work with a professional to do that, to help you do that.
Great, that's true. Chris, I've even heard that sometimes you can do this and benefit the charity, and your family actually ends up better off with some of the techniques that our viewers can use to do that. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. And again, that's what the planning is all about. It gives families, individuals the opportunity to decide what they would like to see happen. In the case of trying to make sure your family's taken better care of, we mentioned insurance earlier, but your gift planning could actually help you pay for a life insurance policy that could be held outside of the taxable estate and increase people's inheritance for their loved ones. It's all about the planning.
It's great. So if I'm interpreting what both of you are saying, that it's actually possible for someone to sit down with their professional advisor, attorney, CPA, financial planner, and tell them what their objectives are. They want to make sure their family is provided for, but they can also include local organizations. And to recap, kind of both during their lifetime and through their estate. So people have a lot of choices. What if someone doesn't have a will or a trust currently? What are the steps they should take to address that problem? Denise.
Well, I would recommend that you sit down and you start to write it out, what you'd like to accomplish, and write down what your assets are. How much would you like to give to your children or grandchildren? What would you like to give to charity? And make a list of where your assets are. It's really good to know what you have, and then you can make decisions about where you want to see it go.
Many financial organizations also have financial inventories where you can, as Denise said, sit down and begin to list what you recognize as your accumulated wealth. And that also is a great roadmap, and it helps to determine what exactly can I do for my family, what can I exactly do for my charitable organizations.
Great.
It puts it all in perspective.
Good. And so if they wanted to seek the help of a professional to help them with this, how would they do that?
Well, again, it's a good idea to first talk with your financial advisor, your private banker, maybe get some recommendations of 2 or 3 attorneys, meet or talk to those legal advisors on the phone to see who you're comfortable with, because this is all about planning, and as I said earlier, it's got to be customized. We have to be as happy about this years down the road as we are the day we're doing it.
Sure. So I think a lot of times charities will have someone that they recommend. I know the State Bar of Michigan can help people. And then Leave a Legacy itself. If you look at our website, which we'll have a slide in a minute that gives you that information, can also help you find a professional. But it's an important thing. I think the advice that we're getting from our experts is very good, that we need to go out and look for a professional after we've kind of thought about what we want to do to share with us the best way to do that. As we wrap up, and you've been terrific panelists, I want to thank you so much for the insights that you've shared and the ways that our viewers can really benefit here in the local community, the organizations that they love. What if there's an organization that would like to hear more about this topic? What would you recommend that they do?
Well, I would suggest joining the Plan Giving Roundtable. We're comprised of not only nonprofit organizations, but attorneys, CPAs, and even financial advisors. Everyone who's interested in good philanthropy and good planning. Great resource, great backup, a network of people who can support anyone.
Sure. And what about Leave a Legacy, Denise?
Leave a Legacy is our educational program, and we have all sorts of programs each month, and organizations can take advantage of those. We have Development Day, which teaches everyone about the different ways people can make a gift.
Sure.
And you can go online and get all that information as well. We have a library of videos online that you can have access to and learn all about all the different techniques as well.
Right. And I know both of you make yourselves available and volunteer as part of the Speakers Bureau and go out to community organizations, churches, libraries to talk about this subject. So if our viewers are part of an organization that they think would be interested in that, they can contact the office at Leave a Legacy to schedule someone from the Speakers Bureau to come out. So as we begin to wrap up, I just want to thank you again for your time that you spent with us this evening. I know that our viewers have been apprised of some wonderful opportunities to support the organizations that have become important to them and their families. You can reach out to Leave a Legacy through either the website or through the phone number that's listed here on the slide in a minute. And I just want to say a tremendous thank you to our viewers this evening. I hope you'll consider closely the things that we talked about and really begin to sit down and take that inventory of how you might want to distribute things at your death, and make sure that you've included your favorite organizations so that we can all together work to make a difference in the lives that follow. Thank you.